I would say, distinguished studies that have been carried out. And MIT Sloan School and Deloitte did a study a few years back. And what emerged from that study is that the 81% of respondents of that study cited innovation as a strength of their organization. In the same study, 87% of respondents said that 10% or more of their time at work, they are engaged in an opportunity to experiment or innovate. Now let's hear what a McKinsey study says. It says that 85% of executives says that innovation is important to their growth strategy. What's emerging out of all these facts, statistics is that there is a definite link between business and innovation, and innovation is a key business imperative in the current context. And that's where I was trying to establish what could be a very simple way of seeing this link or establishing that link. And when you delve deeper in these studies, what's emerging very clearly is that innovation has suddenly taken the center stage for any business which is wanting to grow and sustain, because innovation is what is creating an impact and value for the organization. And when I say value, it could be as simple as impact on the bottom line. So let's say making more revenues. It could be about creating a very different disruptive product, a very disruptive delivery process, or it could be as simple as bringing in more efficiency by improving in the processes. So somewhere right from a very incremental innovation to a disruptive innovation, the continuum is pretty vast, but at the same time, there is a growing recognition amongst the businesses that innovation is what would give them that differentiation. Innovation is what would give them an edge to stay relevant, to stay contextual, and be able to sustain in the times to come. So with that as a backdrop, I would now go to my colleagues, my eminent panelists, to talk more in terms of various dimensions around this business and innovation. So Charandeep, please allow me to start the session. I'm sure someone could comment. We have two ladies, so it could have been any, but somewhere I thought that C is we have Charandeep and Lopa, so probably let me begin with Charandeep. So Charandeep, my first question is that from a perspective of innovation, customer experience, customer focus forms the foundation of innovation. And I'm sure, as part of, as heading the learning function itself, you would have probably, kind of customized or change your offerings, customer offerings, basis the, customer experience or customer focus. So how do you think the evolving social realities and the emerging technologies have catalyzed innovation?
So thank you so much for inviting me first to speak on this. But what I would like to really start with is, I think, to my mind, innovation is not really new. It is not something that we've started thinking about right now. Way back when I joined GE in 2001, one of the taglines that GE, had, and I think now they've really changed it a little bit, was imagination at work. And the whole concept of imagination at work was that, when you're at work, you are constantly thinking, innovating of how you can do things differently. I just feel that, that whole concept has just grown over years, and it has really now become a global phenomena. really. And I think innovation is the talk of the town. And I think the last year 2020, this whole COVID situation and the lockdown and all of that has really forced us to start thinking differently, whether it is a personally, or whether it is your business, or the way you do things. It has really changed a lot of things. For example, at Max Life, I can tell you that when I joined Max Life in 2019 December, to work from home was something that was never considered. And we kind of tried to bring in some policies of saying, okay, let's start working from home. And one day in a month work from home policy was really appreciated. It was brought in with a lot of applauds and all of that, saying that, wow, we've really moved ahead, and we are now kind of, going to be working from home, and we have that flexibility. And suddenly, around the 12th of March, we were told that, okay, everybody just goes and starts working from home. We were actually one of the first organizations who really said that we will start working from home even before the government announced the lockdown. Now, looking at that point of time, literally, it was like, you were cruising, on a very plain, simple road. The vision was absolutely clear. You were moving ahead, at high speed in a Ferrari. Business was doing well. Suddenly, you saw something at a distance, and it was, hazy. And this was, all the conversation of COVID that was happening in other countries, and China, and we thought it'll never come to India. And in March, we just saw one big elephant standing in front of us called COVID. And there was a stop. We had to brake, we had to maneuver, and we had to start moving ahead. It was really that situation. So 13th of March onwards, the whole organization, literally 15,000 employees, got together and said, okay, now we have to work from home. What do we do? So, there were some people who had laptops, some were working on desktops, the whole, even for me, myself, the whole concept of getting my team together. How do we really, move forward? How do we win? How many times in a day should we meet on Zoom? Is Zoom the right thing to do? Can we, meet outside maybe once in a week? There were so many things that were going on in our mind. From there to really move ahead to say, okay, this is not just about us internally, it's also about servicing our customers. So how, training picked up, and how we actually trained almost 6,000 plus people to really start selling, insurance, life insurance to our customers digitally, training them on that. What is going to be your selling pitch? How do you really, get to talk to the customer? How are you really going to, do it on a phone and not really meet the customer in person? All of this really, really, had to be done so quickly that I can't even begin to tell you. um, However, there were big learnings after that. I mean, the first time our CEO actually came on board, and he spoke to us. He asked us, he said, what is the biggest learning? And the biggest learning, everybody said that we could never imagine we could work from home. So innovation, just became a part of our DNA after that. We said, okay, we can do this. I think slowly and steadily we can actually start thinking of doing everything differently. So the employee connects, so of course customer connects were happening virtually. Employee connects started happening virtually. We started looking at ways of saying, okay, how can we really make even this virtual engagement fun? What do we do there? So again, innovation. Innovation literally became the way of life for us at Max Life, is what I would like to say. And it continues, and I'll give you some more examples as we move on. Now similarly, I think, if you look at the world around, if you look around, look at the way, I mean, I'm really amazed at how, you can actually get a Swiggy guy today to pick up stuff from for you from any place. So if you want a medicine in the night, you can actually tell the Swiggy guy to go pick it up from that particular chemist. If it's not available there, he'll actually go to the next one and get it for you. I don't think we ever imagined Swiggy doing that. Look at the way the whole entertainment business has changed. What kind of innovation has come in there, from going to a PVR and enjoying movies there, to literally saying that, okay, it's better to buy a better television set at home, which is like, going to give you that kind of experience, to Netflix going and really starting to invest, produce a lot more Netflix original movies now today. I don't think we ever saw that. So I think everything around, when I look around, everything around us is changing, and there's so much of innovation that, you name it, and people are thinking of doing their businesses differently. I mean, I can tell you, my husband owns a gym in Delhi. His way of approaching his clients, of saying, okay, we'll train you online, that has changed. Who could think of doing gym at home online and his instructor telling you? So everything is all about innovation today, really. Yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Sure, Charan. Thank you so much. True that, and I think you said that beautifully, that we probably somewhere started where, let's say, imagination at work program that you mentioned about, it was essentially a preserve of some distinguished companies, and now gradually it is a phenomenon that pretty much is a something which is omnipresent. And as probably when I opened, I also mentioned that somewhere organization think that this is part of their survival kits now. So that's good for everyone. By the way, because innovation is also, there is enough empirical evidence available saying that innovation also bring in cost efficiencies, operational efficiencies, and this is then, and of course we spoke about customer experience, and which is what is generally being passed on to the end customers as well. So good situation to be in. Rohit, I have a specific one for you. We know, you work in a technology company, and I'm sure you could definitely bring in a very perspective. So, how do you think, with whatever Charandeep just spoke about, and then how do you think technologies have had a play in terms of making innovation a constant phenomena or as an everyday thing?
Great. Thanks, Amit. Thanks for that. Very interesting conversation. And Charandeep brought up what's the dynamics that come in the latest. So if you look at it from a big picture perspective, what innovation means is bringing ideas to life. And ideas to life can be brought in various situations. But if you look at the innovation curve, maximum innovations have happened in the toughest times. So just after the World War One, just after World War Two, just after any calamity, and now at the pandemic. So it's really accelerated. You would have all seen the forward which says that who was the architect of your digital transformation, and the CIO, CEO, COVID. So it's COVID that wins. So COVID is the architect of digital transformation across. But what's really happened now is everybody is now using technology so for bringing their services to the market. So that's also brought technology out, and technology has become so interesting. I'll just give you an example of Zoom. The features in Zoom, every 15 days there's been something new, and it's actually like really being there. And what I find really exciting about all of this is that all of this is sustainable. uh, to be zigzagging across the world, flying around, and all of that is not sustainable for the world. But now all of us across the country sitting and having this conversation is something that is definitely much more sustainable. And I can see all the students as well here, and that's wonderful, without all the travel, without the time, and so on. So information technology, it really follows what businesses need. And I would come back to the come back to the basics here, as what really drives innovation uh, uh, is pride that people have in their work and in the company. So that's a prerequisite for doing that. I'm moving out from technology and back to the basics, because regardless of how much technology you have, if people do not collaborate, work together, and have that pride for both the work that they're doing and the company that they're working for, there is no innovation at all. Technology is secondary. It is humans who bring that technology. So uh, I think it's great to focus on what makes people innovate. What cultures do people innovate in? How do managers need to be who innovate within organizations, and so on? And I would love to discuss more about that. And I got to see some very interesting topics. Like, for example, diversity is great for innovation. And we have this idea saying if we have more women leaders at the top, the company is more innovative. There's a detail to that, which is great. But if there are more leaders at the top, but there are not enough women leaders as managers, then innovation is reduced. So that means that innovation is diversity is required not just at the top, but at every level in the organization, so that there are new ideas that come. So I've deviated a bit from the technology topic, but I think this is basic to either technology or any other organization for innovation.
Thanks, Rohit. That was very insightful. And I think what you've navigated is from the very hardcore technology aspect to this dimension of what I'm calling as human side of technology. And why not even human technology? For example, you did mention about collaboration, and I couldn't have agreed more with you. As more and more innovation is happening, or there is a pressure, and we just spoke about this being a key imperative, there is a need for ensuring that the human part of technology is also somewhere developed, somewhere brought in play, because otherwise, it's not going to happen. And most organizations, for an example, uh, in our organization, we have introduced a concept called garages. So we have some 5 cross-functional team dealing with 5 customer realities, and they are working end to end, breaking all the silos, so much so that we have actually created a physical space for them, which actually looks like a garage. And when we say garage, is that you could be there in your shorts, and basically you can shun your pinstripe shirts and your suits, and you can be there. But you do that as someone, a collaborative team coming together and working to find an innovative solution to a customer reality. So great point, Rohit. I appreciate that. And as we tread along the conversation today, I think we want to hear more about that aspect of innovation. Just very quickly, I think just when we were talking of technology, the fact that, and especially what has happened in the last 5 years, I was reading somewhere that 90% of the world's data has been collated in the last couple of years. And no wonder that everyone says data is the new currency, right? So why I'm saying so is that we'll park this thought here, and as we progress with the discussion, we'll have we will see that how data is itself fueling, catalyzing innovation, the hard part of the innovation, so to speak. Okay, let me now take this opportunity to take the discussion further, and maybe this one is for you, Lopa, the colleague with the alphabet L, and I hope I was very candid in saying that why it was Charan first and Lopa next. So hope you'll excuse me for that. But Lopa, the world scene is changing. Innovation is everywhere. Charan emphasized that it is seemingly a phenomenon which is like become a omnipresent and which is an everyday reality. What do you think? What's your view about how is it shaping up for us in India? I would say where we stand in global innovation continuum. What possibly are our achievements? What could be probably the challenges? Some views, thoughts there.
Sure. So firstly, let me just, you know, throw some data and statistics here that, India has moved 4 places on the Global Innovation Index 2020, rank 48th since 2019. So we are now amongst the top 50 countries. And by earning this position, we are highest as far as Central and South Asian region are concerned. So this is actually an index that is compiled by the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. And they do this in collaboration with Cornell and with INSEAD. The interesting thing is that we as a country have shown improvement on three parameters: on institutions, on what they're calling business sophistication, and creative output. And these, if we look at further, if we look at a subdivision, some of the parameters for these would include things like political stability, government efficiency. They're also talking about creative output. So, which is basically a combination of performance improvements that have taken place, some model changes that have taken place. And interestingly, uh, amongst the top 5,000 brands that have been quoted, 164 of those are from India, many of which are being led by the Tata Group. So as you can see at a national level, I think there has been, a lot of progress that has been happening. And I think the government's, focus on making innovation a central tenet in the economic policy is possibly paying off. The WIPO has said that as a country, we are able to innovate because, we have a very vibrant startup ecosystem. We have a system where there is collaboration that has now started happening between the private sector and the public sector. That there is a lot of research that is happening, across the country. And although while, we're quoted as a low middle income economy, institutes like the IITs, the IISCs, etc., with all the research that they do and the articles, the journals, the papers that they published, they have been able to bring, India and the innovation sort of, somewhere around the forefront. I think Rohit mentioned, that biggest catalyst for innovation in recent times has been COVID, and I think all of us have experienced it. Having said that, I think the landscape for global innovation is continuing to shift. It's possibly, a constant shift that is happening and that is going to continue to happen. So I think how nations, organizations, and society collectively look at innovation is really what is going to make a difference. If I was to quote an example of something recent, I would like to talk about Amul, an Indian organization that has been doing very, very well. Uh, During the pandemic, when many dairy organizations were kind of faced with a loss and were, looking at all kinds of challenges, Amul was thriving. So if you recall, during the lockdown, and even after that, for a long time, hotels, restaurant chains, cafeterias were shut. And there came a point when all the dairy producers started dumping milk on the road in order to attract the government's notice because they were really, really, suffering. What Amul started doing was they started purchasing 3.5 million liters of excess milk on a daily basis. What they did during this period was not only generate income for these dairy farmers, but they also came up with a lot of innovative products. As a result, today the organization is Asia's largest, dairy related company. And they have said that by 2024, they hope to become amongst the top three in the world. So again, a clear case of how an adversity and a calamity was, converted into innovation. However, you talked about, Amit, also you said, what are some of the challenges? And I think one of the things that Rohit touched upon, and I would just like to elaborate a little bit before I move to another example, is I think that in the corporate world, while many organizations grapple with the idea that innovation is required, and there is an understanding and an acknowledgement that it is very basic to, sustenance and growth, I think companies are still struggling to figure out who is the right leader who is going to enable that environment? What are the systems and processes that need to be put in place? What kind of talent can actually, make that possible and happen? Because even with the best intentions, even sometimes with a lot of investment in technology, tools, material, etc., innovation really doesn't succeed. And one of the key things I think in innovation is the kind of environment that is, fostered in the organization. And I think that uh, responsibility lies with the leadership in terms of how, that is cascaded and how that is enabled, and what kind of a culture prevails in the organization. I mean, we would say that it's a given, right? That for a organization that manufactures a product, that R&D needs to speak very nicely to manufacturing, which needs to communicate very well to marketing, so that the end product that really goes out to the consumer is something that's packaged well and appeals to the consumer's requirement. But it doesn't always happen like that. The seamless integration that we're talking about can be a big challenge in organizations. And I think that's where the culture of the organization, um, enabling and fostering that innovation, um, can play a very big role in either making it happen or otherwise. I talked about Amul. I would like to give another example of an organization that went into innovating a specific product, and it didn't work. Again, our very own organization, Indian organization, Godrej and Boyce. So Godrej came up with a product in 2009, 2008, 2009 called Chotu Cool, which was a small refrigerator. And then in 2014 decided to relaunch it because they sort of took some feedback from the consumer and decided to relaunch it. And while they were doing this relaunch, interestingly, there was no fanfare, there were no brand ambassadors, there was nothing. There were a bunch of children who were actually painting on that refrigerator. So it was a personalized refrigerator where you could, put any art item, anything that you required. And the whole essence of Chotukul was creative empowerment, was to create a sense of pride. And it was also to break the barrier between affordability and aspiration. So in fact, Mr. Jamshed Godrej had said that I want to give the bottom of the pyramid a product that the top of the pyramid should aspire for. So that really was the objective of this. And to that end, the Godrej team went ahead. They spent a lot of time in the villages, in meeting the customers, in meeting the potential customers and talking to them. They distributed prototypes. Uh, they observed what was being done with the product. They wanted to see how that product was impacting their society, the community. Was it really making a difference? They put together a fabulous team of diverse people, MBAs, design architects, other designers, business people, everybody. And yet, Chotukul failed. So what happened there was that, they looked at a disruptive innovation. They came up with a solution which was a small refrigerator without really understanding the customer need. They looked at competition by looking at other refrigerators as competition. But if you really do an in-depth study of when this whole innovation process was happening, when they were talking to people, people in the rural markets told them that we don't need a small refrigerator. We buy vegetables every day for daily consumption. We store our water in earthen pots. That keeps our water cool. We boil our milk every day. So competition here was not other refrigerators. Competition here was completely something else, which I think Godrej failed to see. I think it's wrong to assume that consumers and customers will buy a particular product just because it's cheaper, because that's not necessarily true. So Apple's iPod wasn't made obsolete by another type of MP3 player. It was made obsolete because of the app on a smartphone. So innovation involves so many different parameters. It involves so much of complexity that unless there is a sustained, focused effort, it can go wayward for the business. But I think as corporates and as country as a whole, we are making great strides. I just wanted to cite two examples only for reference.
Great, Loba. So I think those were very relevant and examples. And then just on that global innovation index rating, I think we as even if not aware of the rating or ranking in that particular index, what we generally see is that there is a kind of an ecosystem which the country is able to kind of create, whether that's about having financial ecosystem, whether that's about in terms of VCs, in terms of mentoring, many successful innovators have taken unto themselves to kind of catalyze innovation within the country, and that's what they're doing. So, in all, there is seemingly in India, in Indian terms, I think we've made some very galloping advances, especially in the last 5 years, when it comes to being an innovative country. I think I would be probably failing in my duty. I'm not sure whether that's politically right or not. If I do not talk about the British part, and as you probably would also know about, somewhere there has been a book written on that. But essentially, I think even the jugaad or whatever is also where, as from Roy, university has thrown some idea, and that idea was implemented like impact. So at least from my perspective, in my parlance, I would also include that as an innovation. So thank you so much, Lopa, and we'll of course come back to more. But meanwhile, in the chat window, I could see one Mr. Tiwari asking what is the simple definition of innovation. Mr. Tiwari, like I mentioned
I beg your
earlier,
pardon, Mr. Amit. I'm sorry to barge into your talk, but there are basically some concerns because there is an audio flare up at your end. Could you see that if it can be mended? Or there's a lot of echo also we could see from your end.
Your voice is breaking.
Is that?
So it's almost same.
I don't know. I think same was happening, but I thought it's probably is it clear now?
If it's a empty hall or something like you please open the door, or probably if you have put some mic, you can do it without mic also. That may help. Because a lot of echo is there and flare up is also there, so disturbance is there.
Okay. Okay.
Now it's better, I guess.
Does this work now?
No, Mr. Rohit is
Better?
also saying the same thing.
Okay. Something your video, it would be clearer. I don't mind. Let me try this. Okay, I'll switch on my video and see if it is better. Is it better now?
Slightly, I would say.
Yeah, slightly.
Technology can't do better than this, I would say.
But the session chair cannot go incognito and mask himself,
True.
Okay. All right. So maybe I'll do some innovation.
While speaking, you can switch off your video, then you can come back.
Sure. If that helps, surely. All right. I'm assuming that maybe I'll just do. All right. as suggested, I've also just opened the door of this call. Maybe that would make it better. Is that better?
Yes.
You continue. You have to speak for that.
My apologies, but I'm trying my
Yeah,
best.
I think it's getting better. I think it's okay. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Mr.
Okay. All right. I was saying that someone from the audience is looking for a very simple innovation.
Lopa ma'am, if you can just mute yourself so that if the voice can be clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it better?
Lokesh sir, please mute kariye. Yeah.
Mr. Amit, you please continue.
Hello? Is it better?
Yeah, better. Please go ahead.
So I think it's also because probably the others have not muted. Okay, all right. So I think to the question that I was about to answer is that, as I said earlier, I think the simplest definition that I could look and I could get for innovation is that innovation is anything that is making an impact to the business, anything that's creating a value for the business. And value could be in terms of product improvement, a completely new product. It could be in terms of revenue. It could be in terms of increased customer satisfaction. It could be value could be in terms of improved operational efficiency. So that would be my response. So once again, let's move on to another dimension that I want to explore in terms of innovation. So Lopa just shared her views in terms of how are we as a country doing on the global innovation continuum, and I think it's heartening to note that we as a country seemingly are doing one of the best, at least when compared to the Southeast Asian countries, but probably that's not our play. You know, this whole global standing, maybe top 10 amongst top 10 should be our play, because this 1.3 billion population, and with this huge demographic dividend that we have, in my mind, I feel that it is a key imperative for us as a nation to be doing very well on innovation, because that's what is going to give us an edge and sustainability in terms of taking India to the next level. Very quickly, a related dimension to what we just discussed and what we just spoke about is about what could be the enablers of innovation. And this time around, maybe I'll make it a bit specific. In terms of infrastructure, in terms of, let's say, financial ecosystem, in terms of maybe people ecosystem. Abhishek, can I request you to share your views?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Amit. I'll be more than happy to do that. And first and foremost, thanks to the Jaipuria group for inviting us. And good afternoon to all dear fellow colleagues, all the eminent people present in the, I would say, in the room, as well as virtual room, and also in the audience gallery. So first, and Charan, Rohit, and Lupa, thanks for sharing your thoughts on the questions that were shared earlier, and very, very valuable insight, Amit, you shared from the data perspective. The question that you asked me around what kind of investments, maybe what you say, people, process, and technology, so that could be required for enabling an innovation. Before going there, I would like to throw a little bit more context around the topic itself, which is, when we talk about business innovation for a better tomorrow, and you were just talking about it, that what exactly is the definition of the innovation? I'll start with, and then I'll come to the answer. Hope that is okay, Amit. That's okay, Amit? Yeah, okay. So first, let's
Yes.
understand, or maybe not understand. I think as per me, the purpose of innovation is to make life better as well as simpler. But the challenge that happens is that the moment we hear the word innovation, a different picture emerges in our mind, which most of the time would be complex. The moment we think about innovation, oh, there is a light that is getting, all of a sudden there is a light across and something is coming up, something, and in the movies it is being also projected like that, that innovation is complex. And that complexity becomes the first hurdle to make ourselves believe that we can also innovate. And let me talk about few examples from specifically from our country itself, where we all witnessed the innovation in different segments, and it has all created a positive impact on the society. And I would say not a very difficult ones, very easy ones. It is just identifying the opportunity and thinking that why can't I do something good about it. So first, let's talk about access. Okay, so when I say access, it is like the access to some product. So if we all would have in some part of our lifetime, we would have used the sachet shampoos, right? Now it is when I was doing the research, I got to know that Kevin Care was the first one to introduce the sachet shampoo of Chick to get better access of this product in early 80s. And we all see the revolution. Earlier, it used to be all 200 ml bottle, 300 ml bottle. So that was around access. Now let's look at product innovation. Again, example which many of us would have used the product called Bosch. So Bose Corporation, which was started by one of the individual in West Bengal who wanted to have a use of natural surrounding to reflect and have more clear sound. And that led to the invention of Bose products. And that is how you see the size of the speakers and everyone getting smaller, and we get better noise clarity. Third, let's talk about digital innovation. Okay. And again, an individual who did not get a good reference for the treatment of his father. And that when the person did not get a good reference, he thought that how can I get it easily and how it can be done for everyone. And that led to the genesis of Practo. I think many of us would have used Practo or would be using. So which is like a trip advisor where you can see the reviews, the list of the doctors, and then it's very easy now, right? Let's talk about one more, which is platform aggregation. And I think this is something that we all are familiar with, like connecting buyers and sellers with quality. Again, it's like somebody thought Ola, Oyo, Flipkart, Myntra, all that we are seeing today is something which is again an ecosystem of the innovation. One of the most interesting one, and this when I heard, I actually did not know about it a few weeks ago, is around one individual who created an innovation around experiences. So that individual wanted to share stories about spiritual places, but he could not do because there was no takers. It's like, I want to take people to religious places and tell them about that place. But if the persons are not there, whom I'm going to tell? So that individual partnered with several agencies to have spiritual experiences given to the people who are going there, and he would lead that group, and that led to the creation of a spiritually awakened people and the entire ecosystem. In fact, he has also written a book called Himalayan Lust. It will be some of you would find it, or many of you would find it interesting to see that how exactly these simple things led to a huge positive impact in terms of the betterment of the society. Now, the bottom line that we want to say over here is that it can start very simple and can go bigger. And the message that I want to leave with these examples are that we all, especially to the students who are hearing, that please start thinking differently. Okay, have trust in your ability. And I can we everybody, we hear Elon Musk, we hear Facebook founder and other people, and everybody talk about the initial days of struggle and failure, but they all had the trust in their ability. And third, and the most important one, is do not worry about the failures. it makes the experience grow richer. And here I would like to share an example. In fact, it is from our own company. So we have a person in our research and development unit in our back in Indianapolis. So the lady works there for the past 30 years. Okay. And because she is in R&D, so she has to research and development, so she has to work on the molecules. Now, past 30 years, she has worked on enormous number of molecules, but everything has failed. Not even one molecule that she has worked upon has succeeded. Now, imagine the level of demotivation that the individual should be having with so much of failure. When it was asked to her that how exactly you keep yourself motivated, so she said that every time the failure occurs, it is good for the society and company because she has helped in not bringing a bad product. Okay, so that in itself is a motivation for that individual to, even if the failure is happening, that's fine, that's part of my job. And this, in a way, with this also I am helping the organization. So that was something that I wanted to share from the topic itself, which is around the business innovation for better tomorrow. And now, Amit, I'll pivot to the question that you asked me, that what exactly are going to be the what you call physical, financial, as well as technological investments that we are going to have for sustaining the innovation. So if you, I'm sorry, I think the video lost. So if you look at the type of investment will also depend upon the type of innovations that we are looking at. And again, I'll correlate with some of the examples that I just shared. Let's take the example of Kevin Care, who started with the sachet shampoos. Now, it was very heavy on the physical investment. They have to manufacture the product and they have to make sure that it reaches across the mass. That's the reason the biggest investment was on the physical one. Second, let's talk about intellectual investment. Now, if you look at the founder of Bose, now he was the person who conceptualized the entire thought behind what exactly is the need, what he wants to do. The person went to study into MIT, and then after that got the product patented, and then went into the manufacturing. But the first and foremost was that I need to bring the intellect on the table. Third is the technological investment. Now, very important aspects for businesses like Practo, where if you're not heavy on technological advancements and if you're not bringing that on the table, it may not lead to the success for that platform. Okay, so these were three of the examples that I wanted to correlate from the previous one. Now, let me talk about the pharmaceutical industry drug innovation process. And what I can do is that I can just briefly explain for the audience to understand. Many of us might be already knowing that how exactly it works. And this every drug that we use is actually an innovation. It's an innovation where the toil and research of the scientist goes. And it takes from the process starts from a basic research to drug discovery to preclinical, then clinical trial of 3 phases, followed by FDA review for post-approval research and monitoring. And it takes roughly around 10 years and 10,000 molecules and an investment up to $2.6 billion to come with one molecule, one. So now you can imagine that when this investment, this kind of innovation is happening, and ultimately the aim is that when we are inventing such kind of drug, like what we do in our company, when we are inventing such kind of drugs, it is something that should be remarkable in terms of helping the society live a healthier and better life. Okay. Now, we can clearly see that here the investments are a combination of three. First is physical, then financial, then intellectual. Now let me go into reverse order. So intellectual one. Now our industry employs the top class research scientists to work on the discovery of medicines to help the society live healthier and better lives. Now they continue to work upon the discovery of molecule with the hope that some may get to see the light of the day, maybe years or years later, even they may not be there to see that yes, the drug has already worked. Second, you look at the physical investment. Now, when we look at physical investment, the research labs, they need to be world class. Even the manufacturing facility, it has to be made with the stricter quality controls, and continuous upgradation is a big step that every company continues to work upon. Okay. So this talks about the physical investment that need to come up for the for any kind of drug innovation that is coming. Now third, which is financial, and I would say financial investment is such which cuts across any kind of innovation. That is the foundation, that is the backbone, and that's the reason we find all these startups struggling to get the venture capitalists putting funds into their company, and that's the reason they want to have their idea or concept being sold at the best level. So now let's look at this over here from pharma perspective, that it's a very capital intensive process. As a company, we put 30 crore rupees every day in research and development. And as a pharmaceutical company, we feel very proud. And that's one of the reasons that our company has got one of the best product pipeline in the world. It is, I think, among the top 2 or 3 in terms of the future product that are coming up. Okay, one of the recent one was related to where our drug can cure or substantially reduce the the recurrence of breast cancer. So that has been a huge success that has come up recently. So you can imagine the impact that these kind of innovations create on the society as well as human being. So this also requires determination and commitment from the organization to continuously pump money into R&D. And one of the example that Lopa shared around Chotu Cool, I also want to correlate here in the pharma industry. Billions of money put in for the research and development, and then years of hard work goes into it. But it may also happen that at the end of the year, when you come up with the product, it may not succeed, because we have the competition as well who is continuously working on that, on something maybe not similar, but some kind of other, for the same indication, some kind of other treatment, which might be better. And that leads to the what you call even if you come up with a world-class product, it may be possible that the uses are now not there, and that could be something that cannot help the company to reap the investment, the benefit on the investment that has been done by the company. So these are some of the things that I wanted to touch upon from the physical, financial, and intellectual investment standpoint, which may differ from company to company to foster the innovation across the ecosystem that we are talking about. Okay, thanks, Amit. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. That was really captivating and I think very insightful. Thank you so much for quoting those examples. I think that you made things easier for us to understand. So many thanks for your sharing. Rohit, are you still there? I'm sure you're there. Rohit, would you have quick 2-3 pointers to this question? Do you have in terms of ecosystem?
Sure, Amit. Very insightful. Yeah. So very insightful what Abhishek spoke about innovation and what are the investments that are required. I think one key investment, which is the most important one, is what the leaders can do is create a purpose-driven organization. And when there is a larger purpose, that's when people can come together and you keep reinforcing that purpose. And what we are doing is more than what individuals are doing. And a few enablers there are not looking at this is business, this is innovation, not looking at that differently, but together. So business and innovation kind of go together. And what is required there is collaboration. And for that, there is a concept of available energy. So for example, if I take the example of students, Tulsi here comes up with a brilliant idea and she wants to bring that idea to life. And she has to collaborate with Tribhuvan, who is another participant in the session. But she is only measured on her numbers and what she comes up with. So she'll not collaborate with Tribhuvan, for example. And so collaboration does not come to life. So how are we placing available energy? If she's given some score or encouraged to also collaborate with others, that's when she'll actually go out, collaborate, and then come out with it. So that's the practical angle of what is the organization measure. I think that's one key element of innovation as well, which is extremely important. Coming to the external ecosystem, Amit, organizations need to invest in having an open system for innovation. For example, most of us know the example of Tesla, which kind of didn't keep their some of their blueprints a secret, but they opened it up and said that everybody come in and tell us what's the best. So they for almost for free, they got the ideas of the best scientists instead of keeping some and engineers, instead of keeping somebody for 10 years individual researching on it or a group researching on it. So how do we create these open innovation frameworks and structures, which also uses universities, centers of excellence, incubators, all of that? That will be also a key investment for innovation. From the HR perspective, one thing I'd like to add is investing in a listening infrastructure. So how do we constantly listen to our people, external stakeholders, and so on? And that needs both technology as well as the human side of it, and a process. So how do you get those ideas? How do you funnel those to the right people? How do you track those through innovation analytics and so on? That's a structure and framework from an organization perspective, which is absolutely essential, especially for larger organizations. And one interesting study I came across is that the larger the organization, the more it benefits from diversity. So I'm coming back to that topic, but the more it benefits from it because the silo breaking happens. So I'll come back to that. Very passionate about this topic, but it all comes back to the being human. So there are certain people who are called boundary spanners. And if you do a organization network analysis, these boundary spanners are people who are the connect between departments. And they are the ones who break those silos, bring one idea from one place to the other, and so on. And it's extremely important to nurture these boundary spanners and look at how can we increase those numbers and actually measure how is collaboration actually happening. There are tools to do that right now. So it's a combination of the human and technology element.
Yeah, Rohit, and just therefore, the huge role that culture plays in fostering innovation in our corporate environment. It just has to be the whole ecosystem being, nurtured, like you said, the listening infrastructure, but doesn't always happen. So I think it's, yeah, you're right. I think it's the overall, ecosystem that has to rise and enable and foster and allow each other to sort of, come up with ideas and, create that safe space and then let that move forward.
Yeah, I'll just quote one example there, Lopa, that you kind of pointed towards failure and how do organizations really look at failure is an important one for innovation.
For innovation, yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen a previous organization that I was part of gave awarded failures and said that, okay, this is the biggest failure that we've had this year. And so there was an award which is given to that failure. And that's important. And the mindset, and I think it'll be very relevant for the students as well, saying success is a house which is made of bricks. And the bricks are not just previous success, but previous success and failure. So it's not, success is not a house built only of success.
So Rohit, with that, I would probably, be a bit of spoiled sport. I think we left with about 10 to 12 minutes, and but before that, thanks a lot. I think the whole perspective about that human side, and as I hear more from you, and then Lopa chipped in as well, I think somewhere this is going to be more critical. I'm using the word, like you said, listening infrastructure. I would make it more generic, saying that human infrastructure would be probably more critical and more kind of a key imperative in terms of successful innovation than anything else. I would probably on my side very quickly add the mindset piece as well. But leave it at that as of now. Lopa, let's continue with this. I see you in the middle of the screen, so let me just bombard you with another one. And then this is more about so quick context. I did share that 90% of the data that the world has, that's been collected in last couple of years. And I'm talking data because I'm leading you to about code of ethics around innovation. What's happening in this world is that this greed to get more data, this greed to garner a bigger share of data and to make meaning out of it actually is creating those privacy issues, is creating, people are transgressing their, I would say, boundaries, or those are getting blurred. Quick views about having a code of ethics around innovation.
Very interesting question. So at first glance, it may appear that innovation could be ethically indifferent, and its moral valuation gets generated only on how it's used. But I think over the years, there's been enough research now to say that innovation has a very strong ethical and social side. It's not just about technological advancement or economical development or the bottom line in organizations. And therefore, as corporates are working very hard to sort of, delight consumers, delight customers, and come up with world-class services and products, they also have to work very hard to gain and then to retain public trust. It's not necessarily a given, especially today when we are living in a world which is completely disruptive. So for me, I think the ethics of it is that responsible innovation is very crucial, but it's not always easy because we are in an era of disruption. There has to be complete careful consideration of how we are looking at all positive, negative, and any other consequences that are associated with that innovation at all and at any given points of time. Now, innovation always brings with it a certain amount of risks, right? There could be failures, there could be successes, there could be other consequences. And some of these are borne by the innovator, the entrepreneur who's backing it. And in many cases, it's also borne by society. And the sad thing around the ethics of innovation, Amit, is that the consequences of innovation sometimes are not known until that innovation has been around for some time, right? The product has to be out, that service has to be out, and then. So for example, if I was to quote the example of weapons, okay, they take human lives without any consideration. Rohit mentioned, as he was talking earlier, that innovation driven with a purpose. Ultimately, the ethics around innovation has to be something where the innovation is driven with a purpose so that it does some kind of a good to the larger organization. Today, there is enough data that says that the innovation in organizations falls under the umbrella of ethical leadership. It is the ability of the organization to create that environment to foster innovation in an ethical manner, and this is something that is important. Therefore, I would like to say that management can play a very, very critical role in ensuring that ethics. A couple of months ago in Davos, Ursula von der Leyen said that whatever is ethical offline is what we should consider ethical online too. And she categorically stated that all these platforms which are using algorithms, okay, they need to become more transparent so that they can actually share how those algorithms are working, how they are collecting data, how they are disseminating that data, and how they are disseminating that information. Because she's saying that only then are we going to be ethical about the whole process? So while you're innovating new ways of disseminating information faster and quicker, you have to do this in an ethical way. She also said that, there are countries which banned social media. So she was questioning the ethics of the balancing act between preventing somebody's freedom of speech with protecting privacy. So that's an example that I wanted to quote from the online world. From the offline world, Amit, I want to quote something which I hope the audience will be able to relate to, which is all of us are familiar with Apple as a brand. Now, like most manufacturers in the US, Apple does not manufacture in the US. It's all outsourced. And one of the key components in Apple iPhones is tin. And they source this tin from mines in Indonesia. Now, BBC did a study a couple of years ago where they said that in these mines, underage children worked, and they worked in very tenuous conditions where constant landslides were happening, and these children were not being paid fair wages. So when Apple was asked about it, they said that, look, our sourcing strategy is so complex. Our sourcing partners are so many that it's difficult for us to either control or monitor the process. However, when they realized that this was kind of gaining momentum and there were people raising objections, they turned around and said, okay, we will continue to work with these set of people, these set of suppliers, so that while being engaged with them, we can make some changes in the lives of the people who are actually working in these mines. And subsequent reports indicated that they had made, some significant progress in terms of improving the lives of these people. Now, I would like to ask the audience that, what is our take? Does Apple have an ethical responsibility in this? Is there or should there be a code of ethics that should govern how the supply chain partners of Apple source their products? Should they be held to it? As customers of Apple products, should we take into consideration? So you see, ethics has many different parameters, boundaries, and complexities that we need to look at, not just the end product or not necessarily just the impact that the end product is doing, but in multiple ways, even while the product is getting made, while the innovation is happening, what is it that it is doing, in terms of crossing ethical boundaries, and how as customers, can we do something about it? So I just wanted to leave with the audience with this thought. And if some co-panelists would like to take this up for further discussion.
Sure.
Amit,
Thanks, Rupa. And I'm not sure if we have a facility of putting up all questions, otherwise probably we can do that. Most of the time, I think we left with about 5 minutes for us, and maybe then we throw the floor open for some questions, about 7-10 minutes. So one last bit that I want to do is to go around the table, of course, starting from Chiranjeev. I started, so this thing, and this time around, maybe, each one of us can put in maybe either 2 words or 2 sentences and say, what is it that we think is required of our student community to be the innovators of tomorrow? Right? So Charanjit, can I have your thoughts? Quick 2 words or quick 2 sentences.
Develop on your skills. I think it's very, very important to work on your skills, whether it is listening skills, negotiating, problem solving, whatever it may be. Work on yourself and see what works for you, and, develop on your skills, really.
Sure, thanks. Abhishek?
So I'll again repeat what I said earlier, Amit. 1, trust your abilities. Everybody can do wonders. Okay, it is just that we need to. It's like make yourself realize your own potential yourself rather than somebody else making you realize. And the second one is again from the previous one. Don't fear the failures. The more you are failing, you understand that you're not going to repeat this ever. So that's the reason, even if you fail, again, get up, get going, and that will lead to tremendous success in future.
Brilliant. Thanks, Abhishek. Rohit? Collaboration, we know.
Yeah. So so I would say curiosity. So curiosity, keep questioning, don't lose that, and constantly ask questions and find new responses. And second, self-determinism. Nothing is happening to you. COVID is not happening to you. Bad placement season this year because of COVID, all of that is not happening to you. In spite of all of that, there are great things that you can do, and the best students can come out of that time. So nothing is happening to you. So.
Thanks, Rohit. Lopa, back to you.
Yeah, so I would say that no idea is stupid. Don't hesitate to generate ideas, to put your ideas out there, and look at your ideas or generating those ideas from different lenses. You will succeed. You will succeed. So don't restrict yourself to one particular paradigm. The world is large.
Sure. Perfect. So I will add probably allow me to borrow from you, Rohit. I think it's very, very important to have a purpose and connect yourself to a greater purpose, because probably that would help to think big and to remain motivated, self-motivated. And two is, I think it's all about mindsets. You just cannot be getting constrained by what you've experienced so far or what you just see around. It's all about breaking that and just be courageous about having that kind of a mindset. So with that, I would probably request Dr. Anurag Singh or Dr. Lokesh if you can take one or two questions, and then probably I'll do a quick 2-minute summary, and that's it from my side then. So questions, I don't know, how can we take, we have so many on the chat, but can someone help us?
Yes,
Dr. Anurag Singh?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Amit, and very nicely deliberated the whole thing. You steered it so well. So we can have our questions from the students. They can put their questions in the chat box, and we can handpick a couple of them, which are not very repeated one can be dropped. So
questions, if you allow me to.
Yeah, Tulsi, you can ask the question.
We have a question from one of our students, Samantha Goswami. He's asking, my question is regarding the innovative spirit in the rural parts of India. What are the best available platforms which can provide opportunities to cultivate this spirit further?
Awesome. Panelists? Anyone? Okay, I'll probably take a first quick hand at it. So I'll go back to maybe almost a decade back, and let me use an example of ITC, which started eChopal. So eChopal was a platform founded by them, and the whole idea was to essentially support the agri system, which was part of the supply chain for ITC. And then when I say support the agri system, so it meant not only the farmers, cultivators, but this was all about improving farm productivity. It was all about giving them more information about seeds, fertilizers. At the same time, it was also about a kind of a mandi. While I would refrain from using that word, because in these times maybe mandi word is slightly political, but the whole idea was to look at it from a value chain perspective, overall value chain perspective. Same way in the current times, Mahindra has done some phenomenally good work, from a rural perspective. And when I'm talking of rural, while I'm focusing more on agriculture, but it is about also the businesses that are associated with agriculture economy. So availability of platforms, I think it is more about getting into these kind of places where there's a lot of work already happening. One thing and I'm going back to Lopa when she mentioned that we continue to be doing great in terms of Global Innovation Index. I think one of the reasons is that there is an increasing realization that if you were not to embrace, the rural India, you are not innovating enough. And hence, a lot of the products, while we are, totally besotted with the Swiggies and the Ubers and the Amazons and whatever of this thing, but there are so many. One very quick thing that I can share with you from a banking perspective, we use now digital solutions to map the rural assets. So assuming a loan has been given for a particular piece of land, while sitting in Mumbai, we can actually map what's being cultivated, how long was that cultivation was there, when was it was sowed, when it was cut. So there's so much available in terms of rural focus.
Amit, I'd just like to add to that. I think young startups have a lot of opportunity to really, leverage these resources. For example, Oyo, I think gave so much of opportunity for people from rural India to come into the cities and start, working with them. I know a lot of these designers, dress designers, they actually go back into the villages and get, a lot of handwork done from, the villagers and, bring that into the market. So I think young startups have a lot of opportunity, and that is a platform that can really be used.
So Amit, just to add here, thanks Charan for sharing your thoughts. Another point on that, and this is related to again how the even the established companies are using this ecosystem, especially to increase their reach. So we all would have heard the name of a pharma company called Mankind. Okay, Mankind has the largest reach in the remotest part of the country. And how? So what they have done, they have picked up local people from that village itself who can be the one point contact for everything for their products. So they have wide range of varieties, meaning they have product in every segment. So what they will do is that they will hire the people from there, and then they will appoint that individual maybe as a stockist as well, so that he or she procures and makes the product available to everyone. So it is again the thought process of the organization as well. If I am not wrong, I think few days ago I read about a company called Zoho. So they are an Indian startup. The person, the leader is meaning he can go and settle down anywhere. His, if I'm not wrong, his name is Sridhar Vembu. And few days ago, his story came up in Times of India, where he is actually operating from a remote place in Tamil Nadu. And he said, I just want to go away from the hustle bustle. They employ, I think, more than 2,000 people, if I'm not wrong. But he operates out of there. So saying that we don't have that, it is also a little bit from, it has the pull and push has to come from both the sides to make sure that it succeeds. So that's how I project it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Abhishek. Tulsi, I would restrict it to one. We're already kind of there in terms of our time. Dr. Singh, I would just put in few concluding remarks and then hand it over back to you. Before that, thank you so much, panelists. I think it was a very enriching, very, very insightful and very stimulating discussion that we had. Broadly, I think that some of the points that I took as key takeaway from our session today is that innovation is about constantly thinking, doing things differently or doing different things. It's a phenomenon that's about to make an impact to the business. There is a definite human side of innovation that emerged during our discussions, and then that's going to be one very distinct and differentiated edge in terms of making innovation sustainable. Lopa, thanks for using some terrific examples. Very encouraging to hear about how are we doing in India in terms of the Global Innovation Index. At the same time, it's once again it's essentially about creating a culture, creating an enabling environment in the in the organization to make innovation thrive. Abhishek, thanks for using very good insights into different types of innovation, and learning to fail is something that I took away from that. Chiranjit very eloquently spoke about the skill building, eloquently spoke about how the adverse situation or the realities today brought the best out of organizations, best out of people. So with that, I thank you everyone on the panel. At the same time, many thanks to Jaipuria Group. Dr. Anurag Singh, thanks very much for inviting us over. Dr. VP Singh, thank you for your constant guidance, and you're really pushing us to come, contribute, and it was definitely very encouraging and stimulating to be here this afternoon. Over to you, Dr. Singh. Dr. Anurag Singh.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Amit Gupta. You put it very well and summarized it in a very lucid way. So before I propose a formal vote of thanks, probably I would be requesting Dr. Singh, VP Singh sir, that if he wants to say something.
Anurag, I think the panel was very erudite, lot of wisdom, lot of great examples from industry as well as from rural settings. So wonderful panel. Amit led it beautifully, and Lopa, Charan, Abhishek, Rohit, all of you added a lot of value. I just wanted to add a couple of points. Maybe I will take not more than 1 minute. I would like to propose that innovation, in fact, when I was hearing all of you, this thought came to my mind, is that innovation can be by compulsion and innovation can also by choice. Innovation by compulsion, innovation by choice. So when Charan was talking about Swiggy and all those things happened during COVID time, those innovations were by compulsion. But each one of us also have a choice. And especially if you are a student doing your master's in business administration, you have to focus more on innovation by choice, that how you can be innovative. So some wonderful examples have come. I will only very briefly share a model of not really innovation, but something interrelated. Incidentally, I will encourage Anurag and the faculty also to probably sometime have a debate around the difference between creativity and innovation, and discovery and invention. So these are the words which we often use, but there is a lot of interrelationship, but yet each one of them is different. Creativity, innovation, discovery, invention. So what's the difference? One need to understand. But before that, innovation by choice. So if I am a student, or for that matter, anyone at any age, how I can be innovative? So I can be innovative only if I am agile. If I am not agile, I cannot innovate. And in fact, I can see Dr. Prabhat, Pankaj, Anurag, Dr. Prerna, all of them on the screen. We were together in Jaipur last week and we were talking about agile leadership. That only agile people can innovate. And what agile people do? Agile people basically think differently. And one of the things which they do is that they are imbued with humility. They believe that there are others who are much better placed. They know more than they themselves. So this assumption, this postulate that others know more than you will learn from them and then you innovate. That's number one. Number two is adaptability. You have to believe, you have to practice adaptability in the sense that merely saying that change is constant is not good enough. you have to ask, did you change your thought process during last 6 months or 1 year? So for example, if I ask all the students that you have been in this campus for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, or 1 year, did you change your thought process? Did you change your belief system? If you did, then probably you will become innovative. The third is what kind of vision you have. Anything which you want to do, you must have a vision. So unless and until you have a vision, you cannot really grow and innovate. So even Chota Cool or Sachet, it had a vision. So innovation is always driven by a vision. So that vision is extremely important. And fourth is engagement. How do you engage with your stakeholders? And as somebody was saying that all innovators or all agile leaders are great listeners. They talk less. They listen more. They ask questions and they are curious. And lastly, innovation is the outcome of your hyper alertness. If you are hyper aware and hyper alert, you will innovate. If you are not alert, if you are not aware that what is happening around you and accordingly change things around you, you will not be able to innovate. And the last statement, you do not have a choice but to innovate. None of us have a choice. We have to innovate. It is like, are you in the parrot or you are watching parrot? Are you watching 26th January parrot or are you part of the parrot? And you can be part of the parrot only if you are agile and innovative. And we all can be agile, we all can be innovative if we choose to. Wonderful, absolutely brilliant session, and I enjoyed every moment. So once again, all 5 panelists, like 5 fingers, you created a fist. Wonderful. Enjoy.
So nice of you, sir. So nice of you.
Thank you,
And
sir.
since we have come to an end to this first plenary round, and it's a time for me to propose a formal vote of thanks. So I have jotted down a couple of the things which I like the most. So it started with Mr. Amit Gupta, who chaired the session, and he was basically very well when he put this thing that every innovation shall have at its core the customer. Otherwise, probably they will not be that meaningful. And Ms. Charandeep, she brought a lot of good insight to the whole thing. And you do compliment from my side to your husband that if you could train the people online, perhaps we have overstretched this innovation thing, but something I never heard of this thing. So please do compliment him. And this was an interesting thing that the Swiggy people, the Swiggy guy fetching the medicines, of course, very well. And Mr. Rohit, of course, you said that the COVID is an architect of digital transformation across, as if some prophecies being spelled out, wonderfully said, I would say. And then you said that, well, in order to bring up more innovation in any organization, the top person should be the female. Then you even gone a little further and said that probably that every stage there should be more female leads to more innovation. But please think of your brothers and other people. Where will go? I mean, you are a little biased, I would say that. But wonderful insight, I would say. What could I was expecting from a young man like you, the similar kind of things. And Lokmudra was wonderful. She brought an excellent example of Amut, that how they braved the COVID scenario, and why the Godrej and boys, despite of the best of the things they have at their disposal, they failed to make this Chotu Cooler very successful because customers were not kept at the center. And then she was, of course, a very, very important thing. Rather, it involves a lot of discussion when she spoke about the ethical innovation, that any innovation which is basically missing on the ethical front probably may not be a kind of right innovation. So again, I think it is a good topic of debate, because one of the most important innovation that has happened in last 20th century, that was the contraceptive. and just think about some of the countries which are hardcore Christian countries. Probably they have probably discounted all this, right? And and of course the kind of example you brought in, that the weaponry, a lot of development has happened in the field of defense and the weaponry, but of course they lead to a mass destruction. So probably that kind of a thing, to what extent it is ethical, but perhaps think of countries which are basically surrounded by the hostile countries. Probably they need something to defend themselves. So again, I would say that it was a good insight, new thing. Probably we were not touching this thing, but this is something which can provide an ample fodder for the debates and so. And Mr. Abhishek was wonderful, and probably when he was asked to speak about the enablers of the innovation, so he was very, very right. And when he said that, well, probably we need to, innovation is a function of an ecosystem, and a lot of focus should be there on developing that ecosystem, and that will result into the better innovation. And thank you, Mr. Abhishek, for giving so much of good insight about the pharma industry, and how does it work. And the example you gave about the lady who is working over there, developing a molecule for the last 30 years, and probably she hasn't tasted the success. And my compliments to your company. She's working with KRAs at other places are pretty demanding. So nice of you. And so this was a good learning that pharma industry has a lot of risk involved. So they put a lot of things at stake, right? And they have a lot of patience as well, I would say. So these were my kind of a thing. So interesting kind of a deliberation from all the participants, and it was talked by Dr. VP Singh. And I have final words for, again, Mr. Amit, for chairing the session. You steered it so well. You have my special compliment for that. And finally, my compliments to Miss Dr. Rima Namhata. She's a rapporteur. She's recording all these things, jotting down all the relevant points we have discussed. My sincere thanks to Tulsi for helping me in running the show. And apart from that, finally, my thanks to Dr. Prerna Jain and Dr. Lokesh, and the man behind the whole event, Dr. Prabhat Pankaj, along with my dear students and everybody and all the delegates. So you all